My name is Thomas and this is Thinking Out Loud. Movie studios are spending more and more on making movies. And I'm not just talking about superhero movies or other franchises. Even when you correct for the big blockbusters, the average production budget for a movie released in cinemas rose from 30 million in 2010 to almost 50 million in 2019. Why do movie studios spend more and more?
There's a method in Hollywood which is very hard to escape from, largely ego-based, which is if you have a hit, you should make a more expensive movie. If you have a director and you have a $5 or $10 million movie, you should make a $50 million movie. Same thing with the producer. After I produce Paranormal Activity, you should go make World War Z. But I had seen both sides of the world and was very fixated on this idea of let's continue to keep budgets low and kind of play for the upside.
This is Jason Blum. And he doesn't follow this trend. His production company BlumHouse has made over 100 movies in the last 15 years. And they are an outlier in Hollywood. Most of the movies BlumHouse produces are made for only $5 million or even less. To put that in perspective, let's take a look at the Best Picture contenders at the 87th Academy Awards. As you can see, most movies cost at least $50 million to make, and often much more. And the cheapest movie, Whiplash, well, it was produced by BlumHouse. With a budget of $5 million, you might expect them to make cheap, sluggy movies, but they have made both high-grossing movies like Paranormal Activity and Split, and Oscar-nominated films like Whiplash and Get Out. As he mentioned, Jason Blum and his company have made an effort keeping the budgets low and play for the upside. But how does he do that? So it all starts with the genre that BlumHouse has chosen to focus on.
I have modeled for sure works best in scary movies. I think when people pay $10 or $8 or $12 to go see a comedy, they want someone real. They want Adam Sandler or whoever it is. They want someone they know really well, who's really funny, and they want to spend an hour and a half with that person or 2 hours. Scary movies are actually hurt by having movie stars in them. When you have a huge star in a scary movie, it actually makes the movie less scary because the people are watching this movie star in this, you're jumped out of the movie all the time. It's much scarier for someone who's a great actor, whose shoes you can put yourself into.
So basically what he's saying is, horror doesn't have to be flashy and big. The best horror movies have been grounded in reality, where the imminent threat creates more tension than lots of expensive effects. So, for example, let's take Paranormal Activity. It was made for just $450,000, and they did that by using only home video cameras, unknown actors, and building tension with light flickering and doors moving, not with all kinds of special effects. Popular and critically appraised horror movies can be made with a low budget, making it the right scope for BlumHouse's business model. It's not just the right scope that helps Jason Blum to keep the costs low. Within horror movies and movies in general, there are three main ways to do that.
There's a triangle like this. So the number of characters, the number of locations, and the number of stunts and special effects. What I always say to our directors is, you get to pick one. You can have a lot of speaking parts, but then not too many locations, no stunts, no special effects. Or whatever one of those three things they can have a little bit of, that's what we'd be talking about.
Every BlumHouse movie can be placed somewhere within the triangle. The most common one you see often in movies is where they have a lot of speaking parts, so a lot of characters that you follow, but it's all placed in one location. Often these restrictions only help directors and screenwriters.
As soon as you take away a lot of the toys and as soon as you take away special effects, it forces writer-directors to focus on story and character. And even though in horror movies everyone talks about what the scares are, the scares don't work if the story and characters don't work. The story and character is much more important in a horror movie than what the jump scares are. And if you take away the toys, the director has nothing to focus on but those things. And so I think, it makes the movie stronger as a result.
Okay, so let's focus for a second on the biggest cost in the movie, the talent. From producers to directors and from screenwriters to actors, all this talent has to be paid. What do they get paid on a BlumHouse production?
We get paid nothing. The directors get paid as little as we're allowed, which is scale. The actors get paid as little as they're allowed, which is scale.
So scale basically means the minimum wage for a profession. It's not the minimum wage for the country specifically, but it's determined by the guild of your profession. So most movies BlumHouse make are shot in California, so let's take that for an example. If you are the director, of a BlumHouse produced movie, you probably get paid about $20,000 per week. If you are the lead star, you receive for a minimum $3,500 per week. If you are the writer, then you get paid between $70,000 and $140,000 for a finalized script. And the producers of BlumHouse, well, they generally don't take a fee up front, since there's no scale rate for them currently, so that saves them money. So up front, BlumHouse only pays scale to anyone working on their movies, to either an unknown actor, but also to Jennifer Lopez. Where professionals that work on BlumHouse movies earn a lot of money is when the movie is a big success.
Instead of getting a percentage of profits, which no one can define, we actually give actors X amount of dollars at certain box office levels. So there's no vagueness. If you open Variety and you see my movie hit $40 million, you know you're going to check for 100 grand or 200 grand or whatever it is.
When she started in The Boy Next Door, Jennifer Lopez only earned $12,000 up front. But since the movie earned a little over $50 million in worldwide box office revenue alone, she earned at least 10 times more. The specific amount is of course not disclosed. BlumHouse uses all these techniques to keep the budget under that specific limit, $5 million.
And the reason that it's $5 million is that's about as much money as you can spend and not lose, at least not lose much, if you just go straight to Netflix with the movie. And I don't want the pressure on me or the filmmaker of thinking the movie has to be open on 3,000 screens in the US. I don't want to decide how the movie is distributed at all until it's finished and we look at it.
$5 million is the maximum budget possible to not lose a substantial amount of money when the movie is unsuccessful. To understand this, we have to look at an oversimplified explanation of how movies make money. After a movie is produced and finished, it goes to distributor. They either sell it to cinemas or directly to consumers through streaming companies or, for example, on DVDs. Oh, and distribution companies also take care of the marketing around the release of the movie. Most big distribution companies like Universal or Paramount spend about $25 to $35 million on the right release of a movie. That is marketing and distribution. If the production company has spent another $40 million to make the movie, it needs to gross worldwide about $75 million to make a decent profit. To show how difficult it is, all of these movies have made less, which makes producing and distributing movies a very risky business. That is, when you distribute movies to cinemas worldwide. There is the option to not distribute a movie as a wide release, but as Jason says, go straight to Netflix. By selling the movie directly to Netflix or other VOD platforms, a movie can recoup a couple of $1 million. When your movies cost $50 million or even $40 million, that's only a small percentage that you can recoup, leading to a huge loss. But not if you make low-budget movies.
One of the benefits of doing low-budget movies is that you don't have to release them wide to recoup. So when you make a movie for $3 or $4 million and it doesn't come out exactly right, you don't have to spend $30 million of P&A on the movie to recoup. You can release it in a smaller way, make your money back, and keep going.
By using a maximum budget possible of $5 million, BlumHouse are experimenting with $1 million movies. They lose little with every movie they make, but when the movie is a success, they can profit massively. It all hinges on one decision. Should we have a wide release in cinemas, or take a loss and recoup a large sum of the investment? And when doing experiments, there's only one way to find out. Testing, testing, testing.
We test it 1 million times, and we don't decide how the movie is going to be distributed until it is finished. And I say to the directors, I guarantee your movie will be seen, but I'm not guaranteeing how it will be seen. So it might just be seen on iTunes, or it might be in 3,000 theaters, and we make that decision after the fact.
Test screenings are held to determine if a large audience would be willing to see the movie. But is it that easy to see if a movie would be popular?
You could see, you guys, it's like, everyone's like, Paranormal Activity is such a genius. Like, no, I screened the movie in front of an audience and watched them all jump out of their seat and no, I couldn't get anyone in the theater to watch that. But anyone, if they were in the theater, would have known Paranormal Activity was going to be a hit. Everyone would watch it on a DVD at home, so no one put that together.
For every experiment, there comes a time to decide if a large investment should be made to bring your product to consumers or not. By making low-budget movies that in most cases can recoup a large sum, BlumHouse has moved this decision later in the process. They moved it from before production to before distribution. This gives Jason Blum and his colleagues the opportunity to make movies without the pressure of success.
We obviously have the ability to make expensive movies, but I don't want to do it because I do believe that they're just not as fun. They're just the risk is so high.
The experimental design BlumHouse is using to make films has some large benefits. First of all, because a big investment is only made after extensive testing using the intended audience, the risks are very low. The amount of movies that had a wide release and did not turn profitable can be counted on just one hand.
You second guess every decision has to be run by a committee. When you make low budget movies, you can move.
Next to that, the low budget also helps to keep the speed of production high. Decisions are not made by committee, as with blockbusters, but often just by the director. This creative freedom helps the production team to keep moving.
And you might be right or you might be wrong, but we make a lot of movies. The reason we make a lot of movies is because they're all very inexpensive.
And when you combine the low risk, the high speed and the low cost, it becomes clear that BlumHouse with a relative small team can make a large amount of movies. And the higher the quantity of movies combined with the experimental approach, the higher the chance that one of them grosses over 100 million or more.
If we see something that we think is going to be great or different, we don't have to think about how much money it's going to make.
And one last big advantage is that BlumHouse can also try concepts that no one else dares to try, because they seemed unmarketable. You know, this explains how they are able to make movies with premises like, what if a cam girl finds out that she's duplicated? Or what if it's Groundhog Day but you get murdered every day? Since not every movie has to be a success, trying unusual concepts keep the BlumHouse movies from becoming unoriginal and watered down. The movie industry is becoming more competitive every year. Not only are the budgets rising, but in the same time span, the amount of movies released every year has more than tripled. Even though consumers globally keep spending more money every year on movies, that increase is much smaller than the rise in amount of movies. So simply said, the pie is getting slowly bigger, but the amount of people you have to share it with have doubled in the meantime. By keeping his budget low, Jason ensured that he will never need a huge pie to be profitable. And by treating his movies like experiments, he made sure that he always gets a nice slice. Hey, thank you all for watching. Let me know which movies you were very surprised about the budget. I've seen many movies coming by now and some of them have like the lowest budget where you don't expect, or extremely high budget for no apparent reason, so let me know if you know any. And if you want to know more about BlumHouse, there's a lot of stuff that I had to cut out of the video, so let me know if you want to know more about, for example, what they do with sequels. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, and see you next time with Thinking Out Loud.